This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ricardo Lightborn. It is so great to have you with us tonight. Our top story now, the economic future of Grand Bahama is a major concern for stakeholders and top executives of the business sector. Out of the nation's capital, challenge members of the Grand Bahama business community to be positive about some change. Let's go to Joan Davis-Roll for more.
An executive of a national body is weighing in on the economic future of Grand Bahama. Chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Gowan Bowe, in his address at the installation ceremony of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce says, the island of Grand Bahama plays a pivotal role in the national economic development, and the voice of the business community must be heard.
When we think about Bahamas, what are some of the pressing needs? Our national development. And if we're not able to start focusing on how we plan for the next 25, 30, 40 years, we'll always be stuck in a quagmire in terms of how we develop and use our various islands. The ease of doing business, all of those persons that venture into the Bahamas understand how difficult it is sometimes to do business in the Bahamas. And if we don't get that back, we would lose. Crime, energy, fiscal responsibility, tax reform. In reality, we know how important these initiatives are, and the theme for today, Time for Action, is very, very pertinent in that regard.
Bowe is calling for a more diversified economy and more entrepreneurial opportunities.
You do it big in Grand Bahama, so for those directors of the past, they have that continuing enthusiasm, but they know the challenges of being on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. For those coming in new, they have that enthusiasm and are looking forward to it. But in reality, the Chamber of Commerce is only ever as strong as its membership, and it can only ever grow as fast as its membership can, and our voices are loud.
The views of the chairman was also echoed by a local chamber executive, Lawrence Palmer. According to Palmer, the Grand Bahama business stakeholders must become a viable force.
The persons who make up this chamber are but a reflection of the hopes and dreams and the ambitions of the island of Grand Bahama. The Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce is the voice of the business community of Grand Bahama from West End to East End. And I put it to you tonight that there is strength in unity. And as we work together, we can certainly help your business to grow and consequently enhance the economic life of this entire island.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
Well, the Bahamas Union of Teachers giving their support to the National Insurance Health Program. Executive says that it's a local, long overdue, and information that is much needed. Let's go to Megan Shepard for more on this.
Area Vice President of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Quinton LaRota, expressing a general support for the National Health Insurance Plan. He says for years, labor unions have been fighting for this initiative.
National health care was a part of our plan, culminating in a memorandum of understanding signed off in 1977 between the then government and the labor movement. And so what we see is an attempt to fulfill one of the dreams that the forefathers in the movement had in terms of providing this sort of care for the population.
LaRota says that they are anxious and excited about the NHI plan, but there are some concerns. He says they do not want to support a system that could leave workers worse off at the end of the day.
I think the main question is cost, because workers are concerned about the increase in taxes that they have to pay. And if the government can provide an assurance that what will be provided for us in this new system versus the cost is something that we should accept, then I think gladly people will say, you know what, this is an attempt to cover everyone, and we are not losing anything with respect to the benefits, and also benefits are being passed on to other individuals who would otherwise not be able to afford it. And if the cost is reasonable, I don't see why it cannot happen.
He adds that he recently sat in a meeting with the NHI Secretariat in New Providence, where he was able to ask the pertinent questions, and he notes that it was very informative. He says this opportunity will also be provided to all residents this Wednesday.
I want Grand Bahama, generally, and my teachers in particular, to have that opportunity to get all their questions answered, because information is key to making a sound decision or at least being aware of what's going to happen.
Megan Shepard, CONFEDERATION Network News.
Now, the National Insurance Secretariat is going to be holding those town meetings on Grand Bahama tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. It'll be at the new Bahamas Unit Teachers Complex that's in the Pioneers Loop area. And then on Thursday night, it's going to be a similar meeting. It's going to be held at the community center that'll be in McLeanstown. Well, the government and local tourism officials witnessing another significant achievement in the religious tourism market. Today, Grand Bahama Island played host to a visiting group committed to developing this sector of the tourism industry. Joan Davis-Roll has this one.
Meet the real Koloff, Nikita Koloff, the Russian nightmare.
The island of Grand Bahama has done it again, and the island's tourism industry is benefiting. For years, he has been a pro wrestler in the world of wrestling, and now WWF former heavyweight champion Nikita Koloff is wrestling the forces of Satan in the army of the Lord. Koloff, along with a delegation and coordinators of the Southern Gospel Radio Network cruise, were welcomed to Grand Bahama by officials of the government and the local Ministry of Tourism Tuesday morning. The wrestling icon thrilled to discover what makes Grand Bahama so grand.
We have a lot of wrestling fans over at the Academy today. A lot of hands raised of young wrestling fans who may or may not remember me, but they certainly know names like John Cena and Triple H and HBK and The Undertaker and Sting and many others that I was fortunate to be in the ring with. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and the list goes on and on. But more important than my wrestling career now is the platform really that God has given me to travel around the world, use wrestling as a platform and be able to share the good news, share the gospel of Jesus Christ.
The group comprised of 70 visitors arriving from North and South Carolina, Canada, and Texas. Coordinator of the network cruise, Tillie, says, for the past 2 years, the Bahamas, more specifically Grand Bahama, has proven to be the place where God lives.
We did a lot of praise and worship, and I was very surprised of the freedom of the worship that the schools had. And I just want to thank the island of Freeport for allowing us to be here, and Mr. Derek Stubb for help coordinating this, and the Ministry of Tourism. It's such a blessing.
Senator the Honorable Jullian Russell, along with Ministry of Tourism Executive Sandra Russell, excited about touristic possibilities and the spiritual connection.
It's a pleasure to meet the former wrestler in person. I've watched you as a little boy and always admire you, and now to see you in this arena is just awesome. Yeah, so I want to welcome you to the Bahamas on behalf of the government. It's a beautiful day to be outside praising God.
He was formerly known as the Russian nightmare, but I am so happy to know that he is working for the Lord, and it's always good to have a wrestler in the army of the Lord.
Joan Davis-Roll, CONFEDERATION Network News.
Well, folks, Sky Bahamas, the flight on its way to Freeport from New Providence encountered some challenges earlier today. Sky Bahamas CEO Captain Randy Butler telling ZNS News this afternoon. At about 10 minutes into the flight, a pilot heard unusual noise and immediately took the necessary precautionary measures, turned the plane around and landed in New Providence without incident. Butler says it was 11:30 a.m. flight and also with 5 passengers on board, and despite experience, they were also doing well, expressed confidence in the pilots and also commending them for doing a great job. And he also says they will continue to exercise safety. Captain Butler says that an investigation will be conducted to determine what went wrong and try to actually video today in terms of the circulation of social media, passengers on board that aircraft visibly distressed and also holding hands and praying as they did land in New Providence safely. Also, a Bahamian boat captain is detained in the United States. Authorities on charges of human smuggling. The Bahamian man was piloting a boat with 27 Haitian migrants on board when they were intercepted by the United States Coast Guard vessel this past Sunday around about 4.5 miles off Lake Worth Inlet off Florida. The group of 14 males and 12 females and a minor claimed that they started their journey in Haiti some 7 days ago, but local authorities say the Haitian migrants appeared to be in very good conditions and didn't seem to have been at sea for a very lengthy period of time. Well, it says they concluded that the group had departed from Grand Bahama. The Haitian migrants were actually dropped off at Lucan Harbor and handed over to the immigration officers. They were also slated to be transported to the capital to await repatriation to Haiti. One of the country's bonefish tour legends will be honored next week by the International Game Fish Association of Florida. Come February 13th, the late Robert Samuel Ellis of Bimini will be honored. He will be one of 6 persons to be recognized, and tonight, the children of the late Robert Samuel Ellis says that they are grateful for the honor that's been bestowed on their dad. Let's go to Megan Shepard for that.
4 of his 17 children gathered to remember the man they called Daddy Sam, but to the rest of the world, he was Samuel Bonefish Sammy Ellis, a legend of a fisherman from the island of Bimini. Ellis's 6th son, Develon, remembers him as his greatest inspiration, a man of many talents, not just limited to fishing.
He was also a sports enthusiast. He played tennis. He was very good at that, and he was a noted boxer. A lot of people don't know. Anytime you had names for boxing out the island of Bimini, you think of Yama Bahama, but he was the one who taught most of it. And also music. He was an avid musician. The girls don't play anything, but all the sons, we play some kind of instrument.
Daughter Pamela Ellis adding that Bonefish Sammy was also a pastor. He appeared in 2 American short films. He was featured in Life magazine twice and was the first Cacique Award winner for leisure and sports. She says his ability to do virtually anything set a good example for all of them.
As a business entrepreneur, as a pastor, as a community leader, he set many, many, many examples for us, good examples, and he was just a fun, loving person to be around. A very giving person as well.
Charlice Ellis says her father had a lot of love for his community, for strangers, and especially his children. Though there were many, she says, they never went without.
He was a great dad, and we didn't have to look around to find people to emulate. He was the best, and even as we live today, we try to pattern our lives after him, because there was no one greater. He was just our dad. As a matter of fact, we shared him with the world, but he was our dad.
The baby Tammy Ellis-Elliot says her father provided a strong foundation in their lives. She says Bonefish Sammy would always line up the kids in chronological order, and they were all required to pray.
When it came to me being the 16th child, it wasn't so much for me to say, because everybody had already said it all. But I would add a little to whatever everybody had said. So I just thank him for that, because most times we can always run back to God, and that was the foundation, and that is still the foundation in my life.
Samuel Ellis died on March 12, 2003 at the age of 83, but his legacy still lives on through many generations. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
And there's more news to come. Stay right there.